They will pretend it doesn't faze them. They will act like your silence is just another passing moment. They might even tell themselves and everyone around them that it means nothing. But deep down, where the ego hides its wounds, it cuts. It unsettles them in ways they won't even admit to themselves. Because this isn't how the story is supposed to go. Most people expect you to chase. They expect you to explain yourself, to beg for validation, to prove your worth through your reactions. The moment they start pulling away, most people panic, offering apologies, seeking closure, trying to fix what was never theirs to fix. It's a pattern so common that they assume you will follow it. But the person who understands power, the one who applies true Stoicism, they move differently. They don't react. They don't rush to fill the silence. They don't seek validation, nor do they try to force an explanation. Instead, they do something that most people will never have the strength to do. They let go. And in that moment, something shifts. The dynamic flips. Because nothing rattles the ego more than being denied what it thought was guaranteed. See, the mind is wired for contrast. We don't notice the air we breathe until it's gone. We don't value warmth until we've felt the cold. And they don't question your presence until it's no longer there. Your silence, your refusal to engage, becomes the loudest message they have ever heard. Because when you stop reacting, they have no script to follow, no reassurance that they still hold control, no proof that they still matter to you. This is the moment where curiosity turns into doubt. Did I ever really have power over them? Why aren't they chasing like the others? Was I wrong about them? The questions creep in, slowly dismantling the certainty they once had. And when certainty fades, desire takes its place. It's human nature. We crave what is slipping away. The unattainable becomes desirable, the indifferent becomes mysterious, and mystery is a force more powerful than any words you could ever say. Marcus Aurelius once said, "The best revenge is to be unlike him who performed the injury." The best response to someone pulling away isn't anger, it isn't begging, it's becoming someone they can't ignore, someone who stands so firm in their own value that they don't need to prove it to anyone. This isn't about games, this isn't about manipulation, it's about shifting your energy away from the chase and back to yourself. It's about mastering the art of detachment, not as a tactic, but as a mindset. Because the one who can walk away with their dignity intact, the one who doesn't let emotions dictate their actions, they hold the true power. And that power, it doesn't just make them rethink everything, it makes them feel it. But here's the real secret, the one thing that will make them never forget you, the most valuable lesson in all of this. And I'll reveal it at the very end of this video. So stay tuned till the end, because this one insight, it changes everything. And if you're ready to step into your power, make sure to subscribe to the channel, like this video, and hit the bell icon so you never miss out. And for those who are ready to claim their worth, drop this powerful affirmation in the comments below. I know my worth. Let's make this a reality. 1. When the strings snap, the puppet master panics. The illusion of control has shattered. Their ego thrives on one thing, the belief that they hold power over you. And the hard truth? You've enabled it. By putting them first, bending over backward, treating them like some untouchable force. You unknowingly handed them the key to your own cage. They didn't have to take control, you gave it away. Here's where most people go wrong. They assume that if they just keep proving their worth, through gifts, attention, endless devotion, one day respect will follow. That if they love hard enough, sacrifice enough, Endure enough, something will click, and they'll finally be valued. But that's a lie. What actually happens? They see it as weakness. The more you give, the less they value you. Because why would they respect something so easily controlled? Every time you chase, every time you reward their coldness with more effort, you don't win them over. You reinforce their superiority. You confirm that they don't need to try, that all they have to do is pull away, act indifferent, and you will come running. This is no longer attraction, this is conditioning. And as long as you play along, they will continue to exploit it. Epictetus once said, "Wealth consists not in having great possessions, but in having few wants." The same applies to respect. If you have to buy it, you never really had it. If someone's regard for you depends on what you can offer, what happens when you stop offering it? When you take away the supply, when you stop reacting, stop feeding the illusion, they won't show it, but it rattles them. The person who once manipulated your emotions with ease now finds themselves powerless. They realize their usual tactics, silence, distance, passive aggression, no longer work. And when they see that their absence no longer affects you, that's when their ego takes the hardest hit. Because now the well has dried up. The endless stream of validation, attention, and effort has been cut off. The power they once held over you crumbles. It's gone, and nothing terrifies them more than losing control over someone they once commanded effortlessly. So what do? First, they deny. They'll act unbothered, pretend it doesn't matter, maybe even mock you. If that doesn't work, they might try to guilt you, test you, throw insults your way, anything to make you react, anything to prove to themselves that they still matter to you. But this time, you don't bite, because you finally see it for what it is. You were never chasing love, you were chasing approval from someone who never truly valued you. And the moment you stopped playing the game, the whole illusion collapsed. Seneca once said, "He who is brave is free." And what is braver than walking away from a dynamic designed to keep you small? What is stronger than realizing that your worth is not something to be bargained for? They expected you to beg. They expected you to crumble. But you did the one thing they never saw coming. You moved on. And now they're the ones left wondering what happened. 2. The unshakable wins. The desperate lose. Reinforce the good. Ignore the bad. This simple principle applies everywhere, from training a dog to leading a nation. Yet, when faced with disrespect, most people abandon it. They cling, they plead, they try to prove their worth to someone who has already started looking down on them, and in doing so, they hand over all their power. Step back. Look at this through the eyes of a Stoic, one rooted in emotional discipline, self-respect, and an unshakable sense of worth. When someone treats you with contempt, what is your instinct? Most people panic. They believe if they just try harder, give more, explain more, prove more, they can fix it. But this is the first mistake. The true power, move. Indifference. Imagine this. You're involved with someone who suddenly grows cold, dismissive, maybe even condescending. Your first impulse is to show them your worth, to remind them why they should value you. But here's the hard truth. Each time you chase, each time you try to win back their attention, you confirm one thing, that their approval is more valuable than your self-respect. And once they sense that, your value plummets. Why should they respect someone who will accept mistreatment just to stay in their orbit? The moment you stop reacting, everything shifts. Instead of feeding their ego-driven games, you remove yourself from the equation entirely. They expect you to fight for their validation, to seek their approval, to prove that you're still worthy. But when you remain unmoved, when you stop seeking them, You disrupt their expectations in a way that shakes their confidence. Suddenly, the power dynamic flips. They start to wonder, why don't you care? Why aren't you reacting? And that realization, it cuts deep. They won't show it. They'll deny it, mask it with arrogance, maybe even push harder to get a response. But deep inside, it unsettles them. A person who once believed they could pull your strings at will now faces a brutal truth. You are slipping away, and there's nothing they can do to stop it. This is how you regain control, not through arguments, not through desperate attempts to be seen, but through self-respect so unshakable that their validation becomes meaningless to you. Marcus Aurelius said, "The happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts." And what thought is more powerful than knowing your worth is not determined by someone else's fleeting attention. When you withdraw your energy, they feel the absence. The silence you leave behind is louder than any words you could ever say. They may not admit it, but their ego takes a devastating hit. Because control is only sweet when the other person still cares. When that care disappears, when you walk away without hesitation, the weight of what they lost becomes unbearable. By the time they start to understand what slipped through their fingers, you will already be too far gone, standing firm, unbothered, and stronger than ever. Because your worth was never something to be debated, it was never up for negotiation. And the moment you realize that, you won. This is the essence of Stoicism: mastering your emotions, holding on to your dignity, refusing to be swayed by the whims of others. The one who understands this commands not just respect, but true power. And 3, the power shift they never expected. When someone dismisses you or disregards your feelings, it might seem like they hold the upper hand. But here's the truth. The real damage isn't happening to you. It's happening to their ego, even if they refuse to admit it. Because the moment you stop seeking their validation, everything shifts. They might try to convince themselves that your silence means nothing, that your absence is irrelevant. They might even pretend they never cared in the first place. But deep down, where pride and insecurity collide, it unsettles them more than they will ever let on. In Stoicism, one of the greatest strengths a person can develop is mastery over their own emotions. Marcus Aurelius said it best. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. That means no one, not even someone who once held influence over you, should have the power to dictate your sense of self-worth. The moment you internalize this, you strip them of their ability to affect your peace. And whether they acknowledge it or not, that realization stings. Why? Because their ego thrives on control. Every time you react emotionally, every time you chase after respect that should be freely given, you reinforce the idea that they are the prize, that they hold the power. But the second you step back, prioritize yourself, and refuse to be swayed by their behavior, the illusion collapses. And suddenly, they are left wondering, why aren't you reacting? Why aren't you chasing? This is where the shift happens. Their ego was built on the idea that they are irreplaceable in your mind, that no matter what, you will always be there, always be available, always be willing to fight for their approval. But when you detach, when you walk away with quiet confidence, it forces them to confront a brutal truth. They were never the center of your universe, and that realization, it eats away at them more than rejection ever could. This isn't about playing games or seeking revenge. Stoicism teaches us to rise above petty conflicts, not to get lost in them. This is about reclaiming your autonomy, about refusing to let anyone dictate your emotional state. As Epictetus put it, it's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. So take back control. Walk away from situations that diminish your value. The more you focus on your growth, your purpose, and your self-respect, the more you naturally attract those who truly appreciate you. And in the silence you leave behind, they will wrestle with a truth they never saw coming. Their influence over you has vanished. And that's what truly destroys their ego. 4. When you walk away, their ego breaks. Nothing unsettles a person's ego more than someone who refuses to be controlled. When they believe they have a firm grip on your emotions, when they sense that you crave their validation, they feel powerful. And as long as you allow this dynamic to persist, they will continue to test the limits of your tolerance. A Stoic understands this. External factors, especially the behavior of others, are beyond their control. But what they can control is their reaction. The mistake most people make is staying too long in a situation where their self-respect is constantly tested. They hold on, hoping the other person will change, hoping they will recognize their worth. But true strength lies in detachment. If someone disrespects you, mocks your values, or treats you as an afterthought, the most powerful thing you can do is walk away without hesitation, not in anger, not in desperation, but in complete indifference. This isn't about revenge. It isn't about mind games. It's about self-respect. By choosing to move on, you silently communicate something undeniable. You will not tolerate being treated as an option. And that realization? It shakes them in ways they never expected. Most people fear this step because they think leaving means losing. In reality, the opposite is true. The moment you detach, the power dynamic shifts. They expected you to stay, to keep proving your worth, to tolerate their indifference. But instead, you do something they never saw coming. You're done chasing. And that realization, it's a dagger to their ego. Imagine this. Instead of arguing, instead of trying to convince them to change, you simply pull back. You make it clear, without words, that you seek a connection built on mutual respect, not one-sided effort. And then, you vanish from their life. No explanations, no drawn-out discussions, just silence. And suddenly, they are left alone with their thoughts. This is where the regret starts creeping in. They will deny it. They will act as if they don't care. But deep down, they will feel the void. They will wonder, why didn't you fight? Why didn't you try harder? Because nothing shakes a person's confidence more than realizing they no longer have control over someone they once manipulated effortlessly. And if they truly valued you, if they ever saw your worth, they will come to understand that their behavior cost them something real. Not because you played games, not because you were trying to prove a point, but because you knew your worth and refused to settle for less. Seneca once said, "He who is brave is free." And what is braver than walking away from a situation designed to make you doubt yourself? What is stronger than knowing you don't need to beg for what should be freely given? Moving on is not an act of weakness. It is the ultimate proof of strength. It is a declaration that you refuse to be anyone's afterthought. And when you embrace this mindset, you don't just regain your power. You ensure that the only relationships in your life are built on something real, something lasting, something that will never require you to beg to be valued. 5. The power of walking away without looking back, letting go. It's the hardest move to make, but it's also the most liberating. Most people cling to what's familiar, even when it's draining them. They hold on to disrespect, indifference, and unbalanced effort, hoping that something will change. But Stoicism teaches one simple truth. External circumstances should never have power over your inner peace. If someone no longer values you, that is not a challenge to prove your worth. It is a sign that the chapter has ended. The real suffering doesn't come from losing them. It comes from refusing to accept what is already lost. Fear makes people stay. The fear of being alone. The fear of the unknown. The fear that maybe, just maybe, they won't find something better. But that fear, it clouds judgment. It keeps people stuck in places they should have left long ago. And the longer they hold on, the more they lose themselves in the process. Letting go isn't an act of defeat. It's a declaration of strength. It means recognizing your own worth, knowing that forcing a connection will never create real value. If they can't see what you bring to the table, then staying only teaches them that they never have to. Respect and appreciation should never have to be begged for. Many people hesitate at this moment, wondering, what if I regret this? What if I never find someone better? But here's the truth. By releasing what isn't right, you create space for what is. Holding on to something broken does not fix it. It only keeps your hands too full to catch something greater. And when you truly let go, when you remove the comfort of your presence from their life, if there was any real emotion left, they will feel that loss. The absence will speak louder than anything you could ever say, because people rarely appreciate what is always there. But once it's gone, once they realize it's not coming back, that's when it truly sinks in. But understand this, letting go is not about making them regret. It is not about proving a point. It is about reclaiming your own power and peace. It is about choosing yourself, stepping away from a dynamic that no longer nourishes you, and walking towards something better. Marcus Aurelius once said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." You cannot control whether someone respects you. You cannot control whether they appreciate you. But you can control your own actions, your own standards, and your own decision to walk away from anything that diminishes you. This isn't just about leaving. This is about stepping into a stronger, wiser, more self-assured version of yourself. Fear should never be the reason you stay. Letting go is not the end. It is the beginning. The start of a life where you are valued, appreciated, and surrounded by those who see your worth without you having to prove it. Because here's the real victory. It's not in making them realize what they lost. It's in moving forward with confidence, dignity, and self-respect. 6. Build a life they can't ignore, with or without them. One of the biggest mistakes people make is structuring their entire world around a relationship. When faced with indifference or disrespect, the instinct is to try harder, to prove their worth, to sacrifice more, believing that sheer effort will reignite the lost admiration. But this is a dangerous illusion, one that a Stoic would warn against. Stoic philosophy teaches a simple truth: control what is within your power and release what is not. When you make a relationship the center of your existence, you surrender control over your own well-being. You place your happiness in the hands of someone who may not even value it. And that is the quickest way to lose both their respect and your own. This kind of self-neglect is more than just noticed. It is felt. It drains you. It erodes your confidence. And the more you give to something that doesn't give back, the weaker you feel. Suddenly, you're not the person they once admired. You're just another presence, desperate for validation. Imagine being a master artisan, capable of creating extraordinary works of art. But instead of honing your skills, instead of building something meaningful, You waste your time trying to fix a broken tool that no longer functions. The more energy you pour into repairing it, the less time you have to create something new. A relationship that brings more pain than growth works the same way. The more you invest in trying to salvage it, the more you neglect your own potential. This is where the shift happens. The moment you stop trying to convince someone of your worth and instead pour that energy into yourself, everything changes. Work on your career, explore your passions, dedicate time to hobbies that fulfill you, deepen your friendships, expand your social circle, seek new experiences that challenge and excite you. The more you invest in yourself, the less you will need anyone else to validate your existence. And paradoxically, that's when people start to take notice. Marcus Aurelius said, "A man's worth is no greater than his ambitions." When your ambition shifts from chasing validation to building something real, something lasting, you become someone who commands respect effortlessly. And here's what often happens. When you finally detach from desperation, when you stop clinging to a situation that no longer serves you, the dynamic flips. The one who once overlooked you may suddenly begin to see you in a different light. They may reconsider their behavior, realizing the value they took for granted. But here's the truth. You won't even care if they do. Because your success isn't found in their remorse. It isn't measured by whether they finally recognize what they lost. It's measured by your own growth, your own peace, your own ability to stand tall with or without them. By crafting a life that is whole and meaningful on its own, you regain clarity, you regain strength, you regain a deeper understanding of what truly matters. And whether you choose to give them another chance or walk away completely, you will do so with confidence and dignity. At the heart of Stoic wisdom lies one simple principle. Your power has always been within you, not in their validation, not in their approval, but in your own actions, your own mindset, and your own progress. And when you live this way, you will never find yourself in a position of begging for recognition, because you will have already secured it, not through words, not through effort, but through the undeniable force of the life you've built. 7. Master detachment. Master the game detachment. It's not about pretending not to care. It's not about playing games or faking indifference. It's about achieving true emotional autonomy, the kind that cannot be shaken by anyone's actions. This isn't a temporary strategy. It's a shift in mindset, one that redefines how you see yourself and the circumstances at hand. Let's be honest, detaching from someone you care about isn't easy. The emotions are real, the memories still linger. But here's the hard truth, rooted in Stoicism. Your inner peace should never be dictated by someone else's behavior. The moment you let external forces control your emotions, you hand over your power. But when you embrace detachment, you take it back. Think about it this way. If someone is used to you reacting to their every move, chasing them the moment they withdraw, they hold the upper hand. It reinforces their belief that they have control over your emotions. But when you adopt the Stoic approach of detachment, you break free from that cycle. The moment you stop allowing their actions to dictate your responses, everything changes. They no longer hold the same influence over you. And that is a shocking realization for them. A true Stoic remains composed, no matter how someone behaves. They do not react to provocation. They do not seek validation. They move forward as though nothing has changed. And that's where the real power of detachment lies. It sends an unmistakable message. My self-worth is independent of your approval. Epictetus once said, "We suffer not from the events in our lives, but from our judgment about them." The power of detachment is in choosing how you interpret what happens. You cannot control whether someone respects you. You cannot control whether they appreciate you, but you can control whether their actions have the power to affect you. And when they realize they can no longer sway your emotions, when they see that their usual tactics, indifference, withdrawal, coldness, no longer have an effect, it forces them to reassess everything. This shift is unsettling because people rarely appreciate something they take for granted until it's gone. And when they feel that loss, when they realize they have no control over whether you come back, that's when the dynamic truly flips. Maintaining this level of detachment isn't just about reclaiming your dignity. It's about commanding respect. It shows that you are not someone who can be emotionally manipulated, but someone who understands their own worth. And when that realization sets in, when they finally comprehend that they have lost something they thought was guaranteed, they may find themselves in an unexpected position, trying to earn back what they once dismissed. But by then, the power is no longer in their hands. Stand firm in your detachment. Let your unwavering composure and quiet confidence speak louder than any words. By doing so, you don't just regain control of your emotions, you reaffirm your self-respect, your independence, your strength. This is the essence of Stoic wisdom. Master your emotions, and you inevitably master the situation. 8. The power of self-respect that no one can ignore. If you truly want someone to regret not valuing you, the most powerful approach isn't chasing them, proving yourself, or trying to make them see your worth. It's building an unshakable foundation of self-respect, one so strong that it commands recognition without you ever having to demand it. Stoicism teaches that how people treat you is often a reflection of how you treat yourself. If you've tolerated disrespect, indifference, or manipulation, it's not just about their behavior, it's about what you've been willing to accept. The moment you realize this, everything changes. Because regaining respect isn't about forcing someone else to change. It's about setting a new standard through your own actions. When you elevate your self-worth, you create a boundary, one that others must acknowledge if they want to remain in your life. This isn't about arrogance or pride. It's about knowing your value and refusing to tolerate anything that diminishes it. Ask yourself, are my boundaries clear? Do I uphold them without exception? Because people will always test limits. They will push to see what they can get away with. And if you keep forgiving disrespect, keep excusing inconsistency, keep tolerating what drains you, you send a message. You don't truly respect yourself. And if you don't, why should they? Marcus Aurelius once said, "If you are distressed by anything external, it is not the thing itself that troubles you, but your judgment about it. And this you have the power to revoke at any moment. The power isn't in changing them, it's in changing what you accept." Imagine someone repeatedly belittling or manipulating you. The weak response is to argue, to plead, to explain why you deserve better. The strong response, calm assertiveness. Instead of reacting emotionally, you state your truth with unwavering composure. I care about this connection, but I also respect myself. And right now, what's happening doesn't align with that respect. No begging, no ultimatums, just a simple truth that puts the responsibility on them. They now have a choice: rise to meet your standard or lose access to you. And here's what happens next. When you hold firm to these principles, you naturally command respect, not just from them, but from everyone around you. More importantly, you reinforce your own sense of worth. And that often leads them to reevaluate their actions, realizing they crossed a line you refuse to tolerate. Because regret isn't triggered by words, it's triggered by loss. When they see you standing strong, when they realize you will not bend just to accommodate their whims, that's when the real shift happens. And for the first time, they may see clearly what they risked losing. Ultimately, respect is a two-way street, but it begins with how you respect yourself. The moment you set firm, non-negotiable standards for how you expect to be treated, people are left with two choices: rise to meet them or lose access to you. Seneca once said, "You act like mortals in all that you fear, and like immortals in all that you desire." Stop fearing what will happen if you walk away. Stop waiting for them to wake up and appreciate you. Act with the certainty of someone who knows their worth, someone who does not beg to be valued. Remain steady in your principles, composed in your actions, and watch as they come to terms with the reality of what they lost. Because once you master self-respect, you will never have to convince anyone of your worth again. 9. Put yourself first and watch everything change. You've spent too much time trying to prove your worth, too much energy holding on to something that was never meant for you. The truth is, you should have prioritized yourself from the start, not as an act of defiance, not to make anyone regret losing you, but because self-respect demands it. Most people chase validation from those who continually dismiss them. They think if they just try harder, sacrifice more, and remain patient, they will finally earn the appreciation they deserve. But real confidence, true self-respect, comes from understanding that external approval is irrelevant. You do not need love or acknowledgement from someone incapable of seeing your value. Making yourself the priority is the boldest, most transformative decision you will ever make. It's a statement, not just to others, but to yourself, that you refuse to trade your dignity for temporary attention. It is the moment you decide, I am enough. I am whole. I will only allow those who uplift and respect me into my life. This is the shift that changes everything. By choosing yourself, you close the door on disrespect, toxicity, and emotional exhaustion. You stop justifying mistreatment. You break free from cycles that drain you, and in doing so, you step into a life where your well-being, your dreams, and your happiness take center stage. From this moment on, you dictate the terms of your life, no one else. Stoicism teaches that true power comes not from controlling others, but from mastering yourself. When you make yourself the priority, you're not simply walking away from disrespect. You're embracing the Stoic principle of self-command. You shift your focus to what is truly within your control, your mindset, your actions, your sense of worth. Picture this. You've invested so much into someone who barely acknowledges your presence, who assumes you will always be available, always waiting. But now, you withdraw that energy. You stop chasing. You redirect your focus inward. You nurture your passions. You take care of your health. You surround yourself with people who truly value you. And suddenly, the dynamic shifts. The person who once overlooked you begins to notice your absence. They feel the void. They sense the loss. And in that moment, regret sets in. They start to wonder, why aren't you fighting for them? Why aren't you seeking their approval? Because you no longer need it. And that realization stings. But understand this. This is not about revenge. It's not about making them suffer or proving a point. It's about stepping into your own power, elevating yourself to a level where you naturally distance from those who fail to appreciate you. You no longer beg for respect. You command it effortlessly. Seneca once said, "It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste much of it." How much of your time, your energy, your peace have you wasted waiting for someone to see your worth? When all along, the only validation you ever needed was your own. Here's the ultimate truth. What is meant for you will never require endless struggle. The most powerful move you can ever make is to put yourself first. And when you do, everything changes. Those who fail to appreciate you will fade away, and those who truly recognize your worth will be drawn to you. This transformation begins within, and only you have the power to set it in motion. Respect is not something you beg for. It's something you command by how you carry yourself. Detachment is strength. Self-respect is the ultimate leverage. And once you embrace that truth, you will never again find yourself chasing someone who was never worthy of you in the first place. Your peace is non-negotiable. Your value is not up for debate. And when you truly understand this, you won't just attract respect. You will demand it without saying a single word.